So my last video, I posted about the idea of having this Q4 explosion. I think people are getting excited because Bitcoin's price has recently pumped. Some of the altcoins have started pumping again. And in the most recent video, I compared the Q4, meaning October to January of this year, with previous years. So you could get a sense of, well, what does that really mean, Q4? Somebody commented, hey, can you do it based on the 4-year cycle rather than each year and looking back on Q4, but look at Q4 relative to where we were over the in within the 4-year cycle going back previous years. And I'm just assuming it's the basic 4-year cycle. Bob Lucas made it famous. I'm going to do a quick cut to the snippet from that update. See what you think. In my most recent update, I looked at the Q4 expectations and I looked at all the fourth quarter, meaning October to January to October to December. I looked at the price performance for that period of time going back to 2018. And somebody was like, well, why are you looking at it that way? You should look at it like the 4-year cycle and compare that to our time in the 4-year cycle. So there are a lot of different 4-year cycles. I'm assuming we're going to go with the traditional 4-year cycle. Traditional 4-year cycle looks something like this, where you have basically every 200, this is a weekly chart, so about a little more than 200 weeks, you'll have a top, down to a bottom, and to another top. Every 200 weeks, top, down to the bottom, to another top, and so on, which would put our next top somewhere around the end of 2025, somewhere near around the end of 25, sometime around here. And where are we at in that cycle? Well, it repeats every 4 years, so we're comparable to the fourth quarter of 2016, which would be right here, and 2020, which would be here, and 2012, which would be here. So I'm going to isolate those. I'm going to put them on a chart so you can project out what that would look like if we repeated each of those Q4s. So I know this is just one way to look at the 4-year cycle, but yeah, it's the traditional 4-year cycle. It's the one that Bob Lucas made popular. And if you look at the previous Q4s to our corresponding year, this is what 2020 looked like. And it just went straight up. We would probably be at $200,000 by the end of the year. But the other two times, 2016 and 2012, it's pretty copacetic. Here we get back to 74, 75, and here we kind of just go kind of sideways. Now, somebody is going to look at this and be like, okay, well, this is 2012, this is 2016, this is 2020. You see how it gets higher, 2012, 2016 goes higher, 2016 to 2020 goes higher. That means that 2024, we should go even higher. It should be even a bigger explosion. Price goes up progressively every 4 years, which is silly. That's a silly way of thinking about it. Things don't work that way. I would classify it as a hodgepodge. This is more like what you saw in the last update, where it's kind of like it's kind of all over. I mean, I guess the question is whether this is an anomaly. This 2020 was an anomaly, and if it was, then we don't need to get hyped up about a Q4 explosion. And if it was not an anomaly, well, you can even average it out and you still might only get up to 80,000 or something like that. Like, I don't think about things in terms of seasonality, and I would encourage not thinking about things in terms of seasonality or like where you are at some point of an arbitrary model of how the price should form. And it is arbitrary because you do get to pick and choose what you look at. And even along the way, there are all sorts of changes in the actual path of prices from whatever you consider the bottom of that cycle or the beginning of the cycle to whatever you consider the end of the cycle. Don't put too much emphasis on averages or seasonality. It's too easy to get these ideas in your head, and then when things don't work out, it's very frustrating. It makes it very difficult to stay in the market, to stay engaged, and to have the kind of experience that I think you probably want. Let's just take things as they come. You can get more content like that in my newsletter, Crypto is Easy. Go ahead and click that link in the description below. Head on over, and if you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe. Relax and enjoy the ride.